David,
how you doing?
we meet again. Good to see you again. We are here in the Bassboss demo room here at DJX 2023.
Indeed, and we haven't done as much damage this year
as when was it?
Yeah,
2017,
it was
2018?
Yeah, I think it was 2017.
Yeah, and I think that was the first year that you were at the DJ Expo.
It was, yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I was one of the first people to bring Bassboss onto YouTube and kind of show it off.
I think that might be true. I mean, the products aren't even current anymore. So we were talking about things that we don't even make. So hey, now we get to do it all afresh.
Exactly. So my first question is for you. Is obviously we talked years ago about quality of sound, and I remember mentioning many years ago how my ears didn't hurt when I walked into the Bassboss room, and I know you have a lot of passion for high fidelity audio. But you've become a bit of a star, it seems, from the Bassboss social media over the past couple of years. What have you been doing that's really put you into this limelight?
Same thing. There's more people. I mean, it just builds. We've built more products, gotten more people noticed. Interestingly, sort of potential cause type of thing related to that was that we used to be in Texas. We used to exist in Texas, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But we moved to California. And when we showed up in California and we did the NAMM thing, and people were paying attention, because we've been doing good work in Texas for almost 2 decades at that point, just about. But we really weren't exposed on the East Coast, West Coast kind of thing.
Yeah.
So when we came out here and did this show and did the demo thing, we kind of caught attention on the East Coast. And we moved to California, we caught attention on the West Coast. That's where everybody lives, right?
Right.
Nobody really, the bulk of the US population is on the coast. So that's where people started noticing. And I think that that's one of the contributing factors. I mean, the quality has improved, no doubt, because that's what we focus on, constantly getting better. But at the same time, I think that we've been able to get more attention because of coming here to this show and getting some exposure on the East Coast, and then moving to California and getting some exposure on the West Coast, and folks, just recognizing, hey, you know what? That's something that they're interested in, or they hear it and they go, oh, okay. They're not kidding.
Right. And obviously the name speaks for itself, Bassboss. You guys are truly the boss of bass. I don't think anyone at this DJ Expo here can deny that in any regard. I will say, I do think it's interesting that you will say migrated from Texas to California when most people are probably making the switch in the opposite way.
True, yeah.
So what has that been like for Bassboss besides the aspect of expanding your reach and finding new customers?
I guess that's a difficult thing to answer because California, there's just, the weather's so great that there's entertainment stuff going on all year long.
Right.
And so from that point of view, we get the opportunity to have people gear out all year long. From our point of view, California, again, it's a pretty place and all kinds of things to do. I didn't get to go to Disneyland as I was working the whole time. I spent most of my time not enjoying what California has to offer other than, riding around on a motorcycle or something. But in terms of, it's just a lot more people who are sort of more interested in what we were doing out there as they are here. But the weather's nice. So it was like, okay, let's go there.
No, and I think for any newer DJs or anyone new to the event industry in general, I think a lot of people that are newer might not understand, but this business is highly seasonal. Especially for me, I'm from Rhode Island, as most people probably know. Our peak wedding season is pretty much the fall because that's when the weather is the nicest and most you can be outside and under the sun and not be like overheating like you would be in July.
Yeah. Or in the snow in May or whatever.
Well, more January, February, which very, very dead time up here.
Yeah.
But if you could Philip was telling me a little bit about your background getting into building speakers, and your background coming from high fidelity audio. Could you tell the audience a little bit about your background for those people that don't know about that background and how Bassboss kind of came to be?
As unexciting as that is, sure. So yeah, my dad was an architect, and he had a love for music and making things and stuff, and he would make speakers. And so I was kind of exposed to good quality sound at a reasonably early age. It became a bit of a hobby. I eventually, I used to be one of the kids that would be in the hi-fi store that the sales guys really knew wasn't going to be buying anything, but he was always there, like, after school or whatever, and they're like, oh, that kid again. But eventually I went into a store where one of the sales guys was actually pretty cool. He chatted with me for a while. I said, you know more about this stuff than I do. You should work here. And so at 17, they hired me to work in a hi-fi store. And I started doing car stereo installation, and from those guys, they had a whole division for that, and we did special cabinet design for custom builds for cars. And they had competition cars that they'd done, but the bulk of the work isn't that. But we had fun. We tested things out, and we got to learn the very early development softwares and things like that, and learned to do that. And during that time, I started doing nightclub stuff. They closed that division. I moved into home theaters and started doing that. And during that time, they had these really high-end hi-fi systems, but I was a kid going to nightclubs, and I'm like, this doesn't sound great.
Yeah.
And that isn't loud enough. How do we bring these two things together? So I just started to piece all that stuff together. I started to learn how to use different pieces of componentry and renting out systems and developing some, started building custom stuff, and realized that building them one at a time wasn't as smart as coming up with a good design and building it over and over again, which is effectively manufacturing, which is the next step that we got into. And basically I just had people going, I need you to do the system for my new place. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
So I did many nightclubs over the years and kept building more stuff. So this eventually led to people going, I like that. And so we built. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. It's like the years and years and years. Like I started in the 80s, basically.
Yeah.
Late 80s, early 90s through now has been a continuous process of learning and improving.
So on that note, you mentioned that you started as a hobbyist in the speaker world, and I think a lot of the DJs that will likely be watching this video can probably relate to starting as a hobby and turning it into a business. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to go too deep into all business stuff. Obviously, we want to chat about the products a little bit. But how has that experience been for you? Obviously, the business continues to grow. I see you have a little bit more of a team now. What has that experience been like for maybe some of these DJs who, like myself, are trying to scale their business at this point?
So I've never been a DJ.
Right.
And DJing wasn't my hobby. So to be clear,
I did see you on the decks a little bit over there. I got some.
No,
you were hitting play
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hit play, listen, pick music, play. But I think
DJ David Lee. Let's go.
My point is that follow your passion to do what you want to do. I mean, the downside to making a hobby into a career is that that you end up doing a lot of work where you would be playing, but at the same time, the good side to it is that when you're working, it's fun.
Right.
So if you do what you enjoy, but be careful not to confuse two different things. One being DJing,
Yep.
and another being sound system engineer or product designer. Right. They are not the same type of pleasure, right? So figure out what you really want to do that, and utilize the tools that make that fun and easy. And I never really was wanted to be a DJ. I was always about the technical, tweaky stuff. So if somebody's a hobbyist as a DJ, take a gamble. I used to race motorcycles, and I realized during that process that you don't get better unless you push out of the envelope. You push your skill, and so you get better as you do it. So it's scary to go out and do this stuff, but yeah, take a risk every now and then.
So let's talk about the products, the Bassboss products. Obviously, we probably don't have
stuff, right?
yeah, all that boring stuff like specs and
Yeah, no doubt.
you know, all the DJs who are thinking, let's say that you know, I'm sure you probably get a lot of DJs that will come in and ask you, what's the wattage, so I can tell how loud it's going to be, and I think you and I can both agree that that's definitely not how they should be measuring their sound output.
Yeah.
But would you like to detail that at all, as you know, before we kind of get into talking about products? You know, that kind of measurement difference there.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult to try and figure out how to you know, correlate that. But you know, sound is sound and measured in frequency response and sound pressure level. Power is power, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are directly correlated, because your toaster oven uses watts.
Right.
Your microwave uses watts, and you know, so does a light bulb, but they don't do the same thing, and blah blah blah. So the watts are not necessarily indicative of the output. That comes down to the efficiency of the transducers and the efficiency of the design, and all these other different things. So yeah, you can get a lot more sound pressure level out of less watts if you have more efficient design. The better the quality of the components are, the better they convert that electricity into sound, into pressure waves. They're basically transducers. They're converting electrical energy into acoustical energy, kinetic energy. So that's where all that stuff happens. So watts, all other things being equal, more watts is better, but all things aren't equal, right? So everything has to be taken into account, and how you use them. You know? Right. Yeah, you know, and as another analogy, sorry if we go too far with that one, but you know, you can have the
that's
same
what we
amount,
have post-production for.
Yeah, exactly. if you have the same amount of horsepower in a sports car and a diesel truck, that's not the same. It's not at the same rev range, and it doesn't produce the same torque so you can do that for pulling power or for acceleration, top speed, those kind of different things. But if you look at just the horsepower, they could be very, very similar, but if you look at what they actually do, very, very different. So you don't want to make all your decision based on just one metric.
And I think that's a very good analogy to you know, put it into perspective of something else. But if we talk just specifically from a perspective of speakers and wattage, to put this into some layman's terms for DJs, and correct me if you disagree with me, but you know, 1,000-watt speaker that's let's say pushing 132 dB SPL is going to be very different from a 1,000-watt speaker that's pushing 125 dB. Because there's other things in that calculation that are causing a different actual sound pressure level output.
Yeah, because the biggest thing with that is
and that's the key difference that we're trying to get across, is that
if you can get 132 dB out of 1,000 watts, you have a very sensitive transducer system compared to one that's only going to do less.
Well, and obviously I'm talking very hypothetical here. I know those numbers.
Yeah. But I'm kind of point being that when you look at it in, you know, these two things, you say, okay, it'll do 100 and whatever dB, but at what frequency, right? And that's a big key component, because for every octave you go down, it actually requires 4 times the power to create the same sound pressure level. You know, if the sensitivity is equal, and so if you have 1,000 watts and you can do 30 hertz, or 1,000 watts you can do 300 hertz, and achieve that SPL, that's a very different animal. Right. So a lot of it has to do with how deep are you going to get with that, and the other thing about that is that are the specifications fair enough in the sense that you'll see some specifications that are going to have, oh, this will do 130 dB, whatever, and then they put the crossover in. And of course, they measured that SPL above where the crossover is, and then they put the limiting in to protect the driver. But they measured that just briefly enough that so there's so many ways that those things are misleading. So you don't want to get too.
So what I'm hearing as an undertone to this is, you know, not only is Bassboss producing a quality product, but you're also measuring it in an honest way, and potentially we could even go as far to say that maybe some other manufacturers who shall not be named are not measuring those specifications in the most accurate or honest way that's actually going to be a good measurement of, you know, what kind of audio you're going to get out of a speaker or a subwoofer.
It's one of those things where they're technically accurate in the sense that it will do X number of dB with that many watts, but not in the way you're going to use it. Is the kind of deal that happens. It's like, oh, it'll do 147 dB, blah, blah, blah. But it's a subwoofer, and you're measuring that at like 150 or 250 hertz. It's like, but you're going to put a crossover there, and you're never going to get used to that high SPL because it's just not. So it's technically accurate, but it's still somewhat misleading. So what we
misleading is probably the best word
like,
to use.
So you can be like, ooh, but. The point is that when we measure our speakers, they are as they ship.
Yep.
Right? So processing done, equalization in, limiting in place, measure. That's what you see.
Right.
Not, this is the best case scenario, now we're going to do all this other stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So to get into talking about the speakers a little bit themselves, I know we have some 15-inch subs, some 18s, and the 21 out towards the side, if you can see that a little bit in the video here. We also have a couple top speakers. I'm thinking that most DJs are probably going to be looking in the 18 to 15 range, and kind of more at this end for practicality for most systems. But I heard this 18-inch. Not the 15-inch subwoofer over on the floor. What's the name on that one?
It's a BB15. We call it the BB15.
Okay. So, and let me say that is the deepest sounding 15-inch subwoofer I have ever heard in my life. I've had 15s, I've had 18s, I've had 12s. That personally, I compare to the gear that I currently have. I currently have a Mackie SWA 1801 original, not the Chinese ones. And that is like double as loud as that 18-inch. So David, if you'll meet me on the ground here for a moment, if we take a look at this sub, I think this is a really attractive size as well. As we'll give my hand for some comparison, but
17 and a quarter inches across, if that gives anybody any perspective.
Yep. And for specs on this that are, let's talk frequency range. That's going to be really important too. Cut.
No, I'm trying to get my leg out of the way. And turn around.
So yeah, what's the frequency range like on this? That's going to be really important to the DJs and the SPL response on that.
Let's see. So the bottom end of this one is minus 3 dB at 40, so realistically, it's not going to go as low as the 18.
Right.
But in terms of sound pressure level, it's near as makes no difference. I mean, you will get pretty much anything from 40 up out of this that you could get out of the 18. Near as, again, audience isn't going to notice.
Right.
And realistically, there's not very much. You go through most of your music, if you put a spectrum analyzer on it and you just look at it, it barely ever goes below 40. I mean, barely ever. Mostly it's 50, 60, 60, 50, 50, 55. It's just not going down there. So you can do the vast majority of what you need to do with a sub this size and get the sound pressure level that matches something that size without that extra 10 hertz at the bottom end.
Yeah.
In terms of sound pressure level, I hate to quote those because they've changed a little bit, and I don't want to get them wrong. I remember this
and maybe
one.
Philip can email me some numbers that.
But
I can
as I recall, and
cut over.
We're gonna tie all that stuff together. We'll have a comparison engine, all that stuff. This one, in its previous form, I believe was 127.
Yep.
I believe it's a little higher now.
Is that a continuous reading?
Yeah. And so it's pretty stout. Now again, these are our numbers, and they're generally pretty conservative compared to what other people say, because they will be like more. But,
well, and 127 on a 15-inch sub going down to 40 hertz is
it's pretty substantial.
Very substantial.
Really, it doesn't translate that well into
especially continuous, because most people are measuring at peak. And
it's true. And one of the things that it doesn't translate that well into a video that people are playing, and again, it's got to get in the microphone and all that stuff. But all
you guys are going to hear in a video from what I've gotten in this demo room is because
Yeah,
it's
ceiling
just
rattling and the microphone overloading.
right,
and all that.
maxing out the microphone.
So it's pretty darn small. It's just, I think it's like 71, 72 pounds. You can pick it up. I can pick it up and carry it. You can probably pick it up and carry it. I'm sure that my back is probably worse off than yours. So, and so you can just, carry, if you need to go up a flight of stairs, it's not the end of the world. You just pick it up and you walk up the stairs. It's that easy. This one now has 8 presets, which the previous one had 4.
Okay.
And so that means that the crossovers start at about 70, I believe. So you get 40 to 70, 40 to up to like 110, I think. So you can choose how much of that upper bass energy you want to get out of it.
Yep.
And that is, in combination with something like that, you can match those crossover points, and you get a good integrated system that does a hell of a lot.
Right.
You can put the strain, this thing will do a lot of work. It's got a very serious woofer in it.
Yep.
I mean, the voice coil on that woofer is the same size as the voice coil on that 21. And it's a stout little 15.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a serious, it's a serious piece of kit shrunk.
Yeah. Which makes it very appealing to the mobile DJ.
Yeah, we get more people who are amazed by this thing. I mean, these things are great from the standpoint, of what they can do and at scale and stuff. These things are just mind-boggling for what they mean to somebody being able to. You can put that in a car,
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And it'll do. People will still. I mean, every party you do, they'll be like, "Where's the?"
Right.
Where's the sub?
Absolutely.
It's like, that's it. And
I did notice on the back of this, it looks like there are bolts set up ready to go for casters. Am I looking at that correctly?
Mm-hmm. You can bolt casters onto the backs of these and the Mark III of the DJ18. They are going to be equipped with bolt-on caster points, for better or for worse.
Right.
And we sell the lock-in casters for them. So when you lock them, they hopefully won't rattle. But this is the reason why they've never had bolt-on caster points before, is because I hate the fact that they can rattle.
Yeah.
And just as a quick note for the folks who want to pay attention, if you get a bungee cord, wrap it around the 4 wheels and snap it so that it's pulling tension on them, it will also help prevent, rattles in case you care.
Right.
Which I would.
And then I also noticed the size of this pole mount. I'm really a snob when it comes to poles and, putting my speakers on poles that, are on sub poles. What I personally do is I have Proline speaker stands that I just pull the center out and drop it right in my subs. It looks like this size is actually the same as would be for that pole.
I believe, there's 2 standard sizes in the industry, and this is the 35 millimeter. And so theoretically, there's not that broad of a range. The other size that I believe is in the industry is a 37 millimeter, if I'm not wrong. This is the smaller one. And if anybody's looking at this isn't my favorite version of that. And we do a pulse socket rather than a threaded insert thing, because I've actually seen a couple of the threaded ends of some of the poles break. And so I'm like, that's not quite enough. So we do the socket, and then we recommend the use of an expanding mandrel type of thing like this stand here. But it will work with any standard size speaker pole on both ends of all of our gear. There are options to replace these if somebody really wants to. They can buy and replace this with the threaded thing, but be careful of the threaded poles that you get, because you don't want a very expensive speaker.
I think all that we're going to have time to wrap up with this video is no, that's okay, and that's what we have post-production for too. I'd love to sit here and talk speakers all day.
We can talk as long as we like. There's nobody. They keep the doors closed for us.
What is this speaker we're seeing on the top here? I know I've seen this, I think, many years ago. I'm sure this is another newer iteration.
It is this is the Mark III version. I remember when we first did our first interview back in whatever that was, 2017, we had the Deviate which was 2 8-inch drivers and a little line array waveguide. So it was kind of like halfway between this and this. This is the line array waveguide and a 12. That was 2 8s and a line array waveguide. One. This is a 9-inch carbon fiber cone, rubber surround woofer. This is a folded port that gives it much more length than the depth of the box would allow it, so it's tuned nice and low. This box will go down to, I believe, 50 hertz, maybe 45, but so many numbers, and does it really matter? Yes, it works pretty well as a full range monitor. And it's got an 80 by 60 degree 1-inch compression driver on it. Really smooth, nice little monitor box. Weighs just about 30 pounds, and birch cabinet. And like I said, this is the Mark III version, so it's got some new things that weren't on the version that we talked about last time. It's got waterproof power cons, which was one of the things I wanted to do with the Mark III was to make them a little bit more outdoor friendly, you know, so you didn't have to be quite so nervous if you were going to do something outside, because hey, you know what, when the weather's nice, like you said, people want to do their things outside, but it doesn't always stay nice, and so you don't want to panic. Right. So that's one thing that's on all the Mark IIIs. It's got the new DSP in it. It's got 8 presets instead of 4. It's got Ethernet connectivity, so you can access more presets. Generally speaking, there's more already in there. They can store up to 100 of them. You'll be able to store your own personal ones that are slightly edited from the factory, because we can't let people get in and change the limiter settings and stuff like that, because it would put the cabinet at risk and void the warranty. So there's restricted access to what you can change, but you can change things. It's got gain control. And it's got a lot more information that's provided in the LEDs now than it used to have. And you know, like I said, the software is cool because then we can send out new firmware updates or settings updates, and people can just upload them as they come out without having to send anything in and get that kind of thing done. Right. And it's very serviceable, modular, and it increased the output. It's nicer sounding. The DSPs are nicer on the new Mark IIIs than they have been on all previous generations. It's a really big upgrade. Right.
Okay, so before we kind of move away from this specific speaker here and kind of wrap things up, was there anything else that you would want to convey to the people watching this video about this specific speaker here? And also, what's the name of it?
It's the SV9, and it's a great little speaker for folks who want to do, they can listen in the bedroom and also take them out on a gig. They can use them for hi-fi speakers in the living room and also take them out on a gig. You can use these as studio monitors. We have some, production studios who use these for their monitors, and they love them. And the Mark IIIs are even better for that. The noise floor is lower. The resolution is better. They have very flat tuning, and they have a significant amount of power. They do get loud enough to do a gig. In this size of room, they are plenty enough, especially with a sub, you can do. And we have lots of folks who are using them for that purpose. So I feel like they are very versatile. Studio monitor, bedroom DJ, gig, lightweight, easy to carry around. You can pick one in each hand and off you go.
Right. And not throw my shoulder out like I've been doing with some of the speakers I currently have.
Yeah, it's like Neo Magnet. I didn't mention that. So it's got Neo. So it's robust and solid, but also like
at the end, yeah. About how loud it is.
Oh right.
So and obviously, as with any of the speakers in this room here and subwoofers and things, we can never get across the power or the frequency range in a YouTube video. So it's certainly something that you need to hear for yourself. But in a demolition room, of course. And but
take it home. Right?
I can say and I can say that from hearing the speaker in this room, it is just as loud as a lot of the 12-inch speakers that I've heard. So I think a lot of people unfortunately, a lot of people still see a small speaker and say, oh, well, it's not that loud. And it doesn't have a great frequency range. And
the pattern holds. I mean, that's the pattern with everything that we have in this room and in our entire catalog. You can do as much with one of these as you could with 2 of somebody else's something that's bigger. Right. You can do as much with one of these as you could with something that size from somebody else. It's all about output density, getting more out of less, doing less heavy lifting. You don't want to move furniture. Right. You want to make a party.
Right.
And so if you can, get more done with less, this is what we do.
Okay, so now as we kind of wrap up this video, I did want to ask, I know there's a lot of manufacturers now that, and at least a lot of DJs in my area are using compact line arrays for their, smaller weddings, smaller systems. Is that something that we can expect to see from Bassboss in the future, or is that something that's not down the line? When I say compact line array, my first thought of a compact line array is something like Bose L1 skinny style. I don't even know if it's still called the Bose L1.
Yeah, we get the idea. It's basically just a row of little tiny mid-range drivers that
right.
are
stacked on top of
some kind of
15-inch, 12-inch subwoofer or something like that.
If you're lucky, yeah. Yeah. The technical reason why those aren't great is fidelity, and that's a big bugaboo for me. I'm like, it doesn't sound good. Right. When you get a bunch of little drivers all in a row, you can create a theoretical line source, but it's all depends on the wavelength of the higher frequencies. They start to get worse, and the lower frequencies they sum. But they're still little tiny drivers, and they can't go very low effectively. So you end up with vocals that are suddenly dropping into the floor. You have to run the subwoofer too high, so it gets muddy. It just doesn't sound that good. So we are coming out with something that I was tempted to call the anti-column, but
I like that, because I personally, I haven't really been very vocal about it on my channel, but I'm a big hater of, for all the reasons that you've just mentioned, the column systems.
And they never really get them high enough, because you need them to be above people's ears to the same extent that they're below. So if they go from belly high, they have to go double that, and so they usually end like here, and so you're playing at everybody's chest, and nobody gets any high frequency resolution. Anyway, so we're going to do something.
It's like putting tube lights on the floor and shining them into the crowd and saying, I have a full lighting package for the entire room. It's another one I'm a snob on.
Something in the translation, doesn't it? Yeah. So we're going to we're going to have products that are going to serve that purpose, that kind of compact, very easily transportable purpose, but not using the rows of little cheap drivers. Those drivers are not usually very good, and they're very cheap, and they don't.
And you can say that louder for the people in the back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean when you have a driver that's 2 inches, 3 inches in diameter, it's limited, and unless you have a tweeter, you're also trying to push the highs out of that, and it's just not going to. It's not the best way to do that. I mean, theoretically, maybe one day we'll have a technology for that, but that's
right.
not it. And also you've got one channel running everything. Don't get me started. Not gonna be a column thing. I just haven't found a way to do a column that's practical unless it's at least big enough to put some decent drivers in, which is another thing that we probably will do, but it'll probably be something more that wide than that wide.
Right.
And more substantial. But yeah, we have that coming. So we have actually 3 versions of that are in the works. That's smaller to larger, or larger to smaller, depending. I think the bigger ones are going to come out first.
Okay. And what's the timeline on the horizon for something like that? Are we talking a year? Are we talking a couple months?
Less than that. Yes, it's in the works, and it is, given all the supply chain timelines, it's probably maybe the end of the year at best. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the things that I wanted to chat with you about today. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, and tell the people of YouTube. Right, and tell the people of YouTube about the products. I'm going to speak for them and say we all really appreciate it. But thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
And if you are wanting to learn more about the speakers we looked at today or Bassboss in general, I will leave some links in the description of the video so that you can get in contact with Bassboss or look at their products on their website.
And if I may, bear in mind we're trying to do an educational sort of series as well on YouTube, so that people can understand not just about the products, but about benefits to them of how to use them, placement, things like that. So if that's helpful, those are out there and continue to come out. And yeah, more information about the products on the website, and we're doing product videos as much as we can.
Yep.
Because having somebody ask the questions is great because it gives us insight into what people want to know.
Right.
So I appreciate you doing that, and we'll do our best to continue to have more sort of video available for folks to see them, at
Right.
least in video form.
Okay.
If
Well, thank you. That's
Thank
going to
you.
wrap this video up.
Okay. That's what it is.
Until next time, guys, peace.